Okay, so today we are going to learn about the structure programming. I have written one program here. So now I'm going to discuss this program. See, first of all, before going to structure, let me tell you one thing that structure used to reduce the limitation of array, because array can store only one type of data at a single time, whereas structure can store the information about any entity using various data types. So whenever we need to create a structure for any entity, that may be an employee, a book, institute, anything, or a student, anything, then first of all we need to use this struct keyword. This struct keyword can create the structure, and suppose we want to store the information about an employee. So I have taken one variable emp here, that is to show that this program relates with an employee information. I have taken two informative values. One is id and one is salary. For id, I have taken the data type that is integer, whereas for salary I have taken it as float. So see, two data types I am using here, which was not possible with array, because array stores homogeneous elements, whereas a structure or union can store heterogeneous elements with various data types. To access this structure, one thing you need to remember that this structure should be defined just after the header files, and not within the main. So whenever we need to access this structure, we need to define one variable, or we can call it as a structure caller. I have taken it as E. If the program is to create a structure to store information about only one entity, that means one employee or one book or anything, then in that case you don't need to define it as array. As I have used here in bracket 10 value, that means that there will be the structure of there will be an array of various structures. Why this? Because this 10 shows that through this structure and this program I can store information about at least 10 employees. Okay, it is not fixed whether you want to store information about 20 entities, 5 entities, or just single entity. In case of single entity, you can remove this value 10 from here, and only E will be here. Now the main part, I have used two variables, one is I and one is num. So num I have taken just to define at the current time how many employees are there out of 10 about whom I want to store the data, and I is used for loop variable. First printf statement is printf enter the number of employees. Simple. In scanf, one more thing, that printf and scan in printf and scanf, this f is used for formatted. Okay, because these are the part of formatted input and formatted output. Percent d is the format specifier, and this double quotes section is called control string. And num, this and num will enter the number of employees entered by the user. After that, for loop, in for loop, for I equals to 0, I less than num, I plus plus, I equals to 0 and I less than num will be executed first, then the internal section of the loop will be executed, and then we will come back onto the I plus plus part. So I equals to 0, I think I should define here with initialize it with I equals to 0. That will be better. So that is not necessary to define it there, because we are defining it here as well, I equals to 0. So there is nothing necessary to define it as to this point as well. Okay, so for first employee, I have written statement printf enter id. The id of the employee will be entered through this scanf statement, %d. Now one major thing is to note here that in scanf there is end e in bracket I dot id. So this dot is used as dot operator to access the members of the structure. This is very important concept, and it has been asked so many times in exams that what is the role of dot operator. So dot operator is always used to access the members of a structure or union while doing the programming with structures or unions, and it provides proper execution of information interchange. So EI means I is the loop value, first employee, second employee, that will execute it, dot id. Through this statement, the id of the employee will be stored. Again, in scanf, there is ei dot salary. So the salary of the employee will be entered. Now this for loop was to store the information. Now after storing the information, it's time to print the information. So I have written only one statement. You can write it in two statements, two printf statements, to print the values. Same format is used here, just the difference is I have not used AND, because AND is used as the address operator that provides the memory location to store the value entered by the user. Okay. In case of a structure, it is very easy to store the data first, and then at last we can print all the data at one time. But in case of union, because union takes the largest memory size, only one location memory size, that is why in case of union it is advised to enter the value from the user, to take the value from the user, and to print that immediately, because after some time that value will be vanished. I hope that this program is very clear to you now. Thank you.